turn up and tell you what they plan to do, hope to do? Premier League and all that?
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, to acknowledge Paul's kind words there, and also the fact that he's been a member of London Supporters since 1969, the year I was born in, Paul, by the way. So I am the chairman of the trust, and obviously I've been pretty instrumental in the big team that have tackled this for a number of months. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. What I'd also like to, actually going forward, I'll be a director of the football club. So I'm representing the club here as well as the trust today, and I also want to send apologies to our new chairman, Ian McInnes, and also the manager, Guy Whittingham. But as you can imagine, the last few days have been incredibly chaotic. But hopefully, I understand you've got an AGM in July, and come July, I think we'll be able to bring a better representative from the football club to come and meet you. Before I talk a little bit further about what's happened over the last few months, I want to ask Mark to just stand up and just give a bit more introduction about himself, and then perhaps introduce as well Micah, who's got another role as well that I think we can talk about tonight. And then what I'll probably do is, rather than stand up and talk to you all, I'm going to sit down and talk to you all. It's been a long day. Mark?
Firstly, thanks for inviting me tonight. Said from the start, it's a great honour and privilege to be involved with such a great club. I think I got the bug early on with what he was all about. Proper fans. Loved every minute being involved the last 6 or 7 months, and being here tonight is really what being a community club's all about. And it just won't be tonight. We'll be trying to visit as many supporters clubs as we can generally. Obviously, the operational side of it is sort of like the boring side, if I'm honest. But getting out and meeting you guys is what it's all about for me. And early on, and I obviously met Ashley and Ian and Colin and people like that. Then later on, it was Johnny, and I've met Paul in recent months at the club, and just what a great bunch of people, and just so proud really that I was a part of assisting in such a great team in achieving what is unique and saving the club. So now moving forward, we've got to think of how does the club carry on successfully, which is what we all want it to be on a sound footing. We're not going to push the boat out and make promises that we can't keep. All I can assure you is I've got a great board and a team behind me who will be watching everything that I do, making sure we don't commit the errors of the past and move on to a great new future. And as a part of that, I was introduced to Micah Hall quite early on and seen what he'd done, the sacrifices he'd made. And I think as a club it's important that we stay loyal to the people that were loyal to the club in its hour of need, or the supporters. And great to have Micah on board with me, helping me. He understands the club probably better than anyone else. So I'd like to introduce Micah Hall and you can say a few words.
And that's true, but the thing is, I guess, you know, what I want to just talk about for a minute is, if you will indulge me, is my title, which I chose quite advisedly, which was engagement manager. Now, what that means is, I could have said marketing and commercial manager, which some people right? But for me, it's not about that, and I'll tell you why. Right, if you go back to 1991, okay, when I was trying to sell my house, right, it was number 2 Carrisbrook Road, which many of you will be familiar with.
Alvis down here.
Yeah, absolutely. And a certain Paul Weld, right, venerable Portsmouthian institution and living landmark, we talked about, and he said, why don't we just buy your house? Why don't we just buy it? We could buy it, and that way, if we bought all the houses in the road over a period of time, eventually we'd have all the land we needed to rebuild the centre stand.
Wasn't me.
So we talked about, you know, why didn't we get the club to do that? And the thing is, had we done that, right, had we taken his sage and sound advice when he gave it to us, right, we probably wouldn't be standing it. We wouldn't be taking over the club.
Because you wanted £1 million for your house.
Yeah, I said you can have it for double the market value. But the thing is, the thing is that of course, is had we followed that strategy, we would own all the houses in Carisbrooke Road. The club would have had all the houses in Alveston Road. The club would have had assets that it had worked for long term. It would have had things that actually added value to the club. And it hasn't got any of that because, unfortunately, all of the owners that we've had, what they've been interested in is what they can do in 5 years. And what you can do in 5 years is more or less nothing, because there is nothing. Okay, there is no infrastructure. What you have to do is the reason that the fans were the only people capable of taking on Portsmouth Football Club at this time was only the fans have got the appetite for the 20 years of hard work that it's going to take, of gutting away at everything to try and get it right, to try and bring us up all the ground that we've lost. I said to my son when we were at Brentford, you know, never let it be forgotten that this is the starting point. We're looking up at Brentford, probably 2 divisions. We're looking up at Bournemouth, 2 divisions. And with the greatest of respect to those clubs, right, 2 divisions is not the gap that there should be. You can only build things long term. So Paul built a fabulous reputation at Portsmouth. He was the one constant in all the changing times. He was always there with his quality and his class, his touch of Portsmouth class. And when the club began to lose its class, Paul eventually left. Okay, and that was a really sad day for Portsmouth. But if you look at what we've got in terms of assets, Ashley and I have known each other since we were 14. We've got an enduring friendship that has gone on since the mid-80s. You know, that survived everything, that survived all the transitions, all the changes, all the tension, all of the fights, all of the arguments with all the people who've run the club. We've campaigned and campaigned and campaigned and worked to get here. So the reason why I wanted to be called engagement manager is because actually it's not really about going out selling things to people, and it's not about sending people clever emails, although we'll send people clever emails. It's not really about doing that. What it's about is going out and rebuilding all those relationships with you, the people in the London Sports Club who've been disrespected in the past, you know, by the people who've not turned up to meetings, by the complete lack of representation, treating you as if you weren't important. It's about repairing relationships with all the sponsors, all the people who, the massive number of people who are the £15,000 and £20,000 sponsors, the local businessmen, who all say, well, you know what, I used to do a lot with the club, I used to sponsor all the games, I used to do this, that and the other, but when the Russians came in, or whatever, they decided they didn't need us anymore. They decided they didn't need our 15 grand anymore, because they were going to do global brands. Well, that's what the job is actually, it's not to go out and sell anything to those people, it's just about going about re-engaging with them, and rebuilding the relationships that took years and years to build, and took a couple of years to destroy. You know, really bad relationship management. So that's why I chose the title, because the job is actually go out and rebuild the fan base, get new partners on board that we can actually do business with, who aren't, you know, ripping us off, and we're not ripping them off, and we're having an honest relationship with them. Most of all, it's to get Fratton Park full and to make it fun again, because what we've lost sight of is that the most important thing about Portsmouth Football Club is when people talk about, oh, it's got to run as a business or whatever, or, you know, we're worried about the Premier League. Actually, the most important word in any football club is club. It's a club. It's a place we all go to enjoy each other's company, to have a good time, win, lose or draw, to come away feeling that we had value for money, and that everybody looked after us. Everybody wanted us to be there. Everybody treated us with respect, and you'd really want to come back again because you feel that's part of your family. That's part of what you do. So that's why engagement manager and not marketing commercial. I didn't do that speech for marketing. And what I would really like to say to you all is that, you know, I obviously can't have a deep and abiding personal relationship with every single one of you, much as I would love to do that. But I am always available to all of you, okay, to hear your feedback, and we'll be going out to solicit your feedback. We'll be going out to listen to your ideas. We're actively doing that, so that we together, no more them and us, so that we together can build the football club that our forefathers once built. which was a club that actually was in the top division and challenging for major honours. Because we can do that as long as we're prepared to look like Paul was 20 years up the road at what we're going to be doing in 20 years and not what we're going to be doing and how much money we can stuff in our pockets in 5 years, which is the problem that we've had. So that's enough from me. So obviously I'll be happy to answer any questions about my digital vision or anything that you want to ask me about later on.
So, thanks for that brief introduction.
He did want me to do an hour. Because he hadn't prepared anything for that.
If nobody minds, I think we'll conduct the rest of the meeting sat down if everyone's okay with that. I was asked to say a few words about what's happened leading up to this as well as the future, and I could probably talk to you for about a day about what's happened. Mike could talk to you for a week, provided there's no lawyers around the recording device. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and give a brief synopsis, and then, as was said earlier, we're happy to take questions and answers. We'll try and answer between us any questions that you've got. Let's start by going back what was really a year and a half, I guess. Actually, no, I'll tell you what, I'll go back a little bit further. Pompey SOS did a march, I don't know if people remember it, a march from Guildhall down to Fratton Park. And it was a pretty proper march, and people carried question marks, basically raising questions about how good the fit and proper person is best. And because of the situation at the club, I decided I'd go on that march. I think Mike was involved in organising it, funnily enough. I went on that march, and at the end of it, Frogmore Road, I was stood there. A guy called Barry Dewin, some of you might know, Barry came up to me and said, we've started this supporters trust, and we need more people to get involved in it. It would be great if you come and join up and try to get on the board. And I said to Barry, all right, I'll think about it. The next elections came round, I thought about it, I stood for election, I got voted on, probably more because there wasn't enough people standing for election than anything else. I was on the board, and I did that for a year, and the following year came up for election of a new chairman, and they asked me to take that on. I didn't really want to do it. I said, I've got enough going on in my life. But the guy said, come on, it's only going to be a quiet year anyway, you can be chairman. I took it on. Obviously it wasn't quite a quiet year. 3 months later, we had the first rumblings about the problems with CSI, and I remember some rather fretful conversations with our then CEO, David Lampitt, about our concerns for the club and what this might lead to. And at that time, he was. Let's just say that he was sort of reasonably happy to sort of brush those concerns aside. But obviously it led to some rather desperate times at the football club, and what we decided to do is, at that time, put a safety net in place. We realised at that moment in time we didn't have the overwhelming support, we didn't have the ability to get the money together to talk about the sort of telephone numbers that were involved in taking over the club. But what we thought was, if this dragged on, there had to be a safety net. We made sure that we had both a plan A and a plan B safety net. We wanted to make sure that the club survived at all costs. Throughout the next few months, various chances came in, like Joseph Cullen, for example, and sort of flouted around the football club. And each of them was probably dissected by Micah and some of the other guys that were with him, and we found out the reality of these people, and that they weren't really suitable for Portsmouth Football Club. And as time went on, we also built a support from the likes of you and other supporters around the country who started to believe that actually maybe something was possible. And I think the strongest ally that we've had throughout all of this process is the fact that people were willing to talk about us positively. And word of mouth has been such a strong ally for us, starting off with a few people saying, actually these guys, they do talk a little bit of sense, maybe they've got something. And that filtering out across the support base, I think, has hopefully got us to a point where a lot of people are willing to give us a chance and are supportive of what we've achieved and what we're going to try and do in the future. So So as time went on, not just across the support base, but I think you'll see in the media and the local politicians, all fairly supportive of what we were trying to do. And we got to a point where we were willing to do the pre-share issue, and the fans, in quite large numbers, made a commitment of £100 each to say, actually, here's £100 of our money, put it in escrow for now, and if you're successful, we're willing to convert that into 1,000. And that's what really carried us forward to the next step. It's been one hell of a battle to convince the football authorities that we were real. In the end, the support of people like the Football League has been invaluable in recent weeks and months, and I think we owe them some thanks. All right, perhaps they could have been a bit stronger at times, but at the end of the day, they stayed strong at the end when we really needed them. We had to go into court. We had to go into legal battles. You know, the ghosts of the past refused to go away, and I think Micah and the guys that worked with him, who have produced some fairly incredible, detailed information on their blogs in regards to not just what the previous owners have done, but what other prospective owners might plan to do with the club. And those, let's not doubt it, those were read, I can assure you, by the likes of the Football League and the Premier League people. They take note of this stuff. Micah has also undoubtedly suffered a little bit from that himself, as you'll know, with the various legal accusations that have been thrown around in recent weeks, which hopefully will be brushed aside fairly shortly.
Yeah, I'm still being sued.
Yeah, so there will be a bucket collection at the end.
See me in jail.
Having said that, you know what we've always fought on throughout is honesty and integrity. You know, what we've only said what is true, what is publicly available information. We haven't lied about people. We haven't been deceitful about people. But some of the people that we've been fighting against have waged a war that someone like myself, coming from a corporate background, could not believe really happened in the world of football, or business in general, I guess. But we've had people telling lies about us as a group and as individuals to the national press. Luckily, this happened after the national press was mostly on our side, and strangely, they picked people that were vehemently on our side and publicly on our side, and so that information was generally fed back to us, and we knew what we were up against. But it has not been easy as a group or as individuals, but we've grown in strength, and although we had problems in our court case in December, and then we had various postponements throughout the year, some of them were completely out of our control. Some of them perhaps were vaguely within our control, or within control of our partners. But what we did is we built a team of some significant investors, all of which I would say are Pompey fans. Arguably, we could say that one of them historically is not a Pompey fan, but he will claim more than anybody now, having been to Fratton Park, that he is a Pompey fan. He's bought the bug. And all these guys have joined us for the right reasons. They were all told that what they were getting into was an emotional investment. You know, this is not a financial investment. We want to keep this club alive. We want to make sure it's around for years to come. And by the way, you're probably not ever going to get your money back or make a return on it. And they were still happy to get involved. And these are people that put in between 50k and just over 200k. So some significant amounts of money. And alongside that, we had the support of the supporters, and we've built this incredible shareholding, by far the biggest shareholding that any supporters association has put together in this country. You know, we look at Swansea as a model, Premiership club, run sensibly, successful this year, owned around about 20% by their supporters trust. Fantastic. What they've done is brilliant. But they bought that shareholding when they were at the bottom of the 4th division, and they raised about £100,000 to do it. It's now worth a lot more than that. So what we've done I guess today, the latest numbers that we have, I think the initial shareholding that the Supporters Trust will put forward into the new company, and we have to remember that this will be staged over a period of months because we can buy shares on an ongoing basis and we're doing it bit by bit. The initial list that's been underlined and passed to the next stage is about 1.5 million. There is another, in excess of another 400,000 worth, I believe, that's in process. So we're well on the way to £2 million, which is an amazing effort. And in the last few days, I understand, certainly today, there was 50 new applications arrived in the post in Arizona. Of those 50 applications, 46 were brand new share applications, only 4 were conversions, okay? And out of interest, if you're interested, the conversions, so people that have pledged, and we try to contact a lot of these people who all said we're going to do it once you succeed. I think we've still got another 600 people who've pledged, not asked for their money back, and are yet to convert. So if you look at the fact that we're getting 40 plus new ones a day, and we've still got all these conversions to happen, we have a chance to really raise a significant amount of money. Combine that with our presidents, and our presidents have raised, so far, it's around about 1.6 million. So with our 1.9 that's going through process and their 1.6, we're going to start pretty much in the majority position as far as the Supporters Trust is concerned, and probably only go up from there. That is the biggest capital injection that the football club has probably ever had. Because this is real money, this isn't loans at high interest rates, this is real money to go into the football club. Now we obviously have to inherit a reasonable amount of debt. We've got a chunk of debt that's sectioned off and put into the CVA. The administrator will deal with that, and then we have this wonderful thing called the football creditors debt, which we have to continue to own. Let's be honest about it. That's a massive number. That's in excess of £8 million payable over the next 4 years, and you wonder how on earth we're going to pay for that. Well, one good thing about the Premier League is parachute payments, and we have 1 more year of parachute payments due. And remarkably, with the new TV deal that was signed, people already receiving parachute payments benefit. So our parachute payments due are still in the region of £8.5 and £9 million. And if it wasn't for those, there's no way that we could afford to pay off those football creditors and to have taken over the club. Now, one of the main reasons I mention this, because I think it's relevant, is, I have heard people say historically, well, I don't know if I want to put money in to the football club when it's just going to go and pay some player that I can't even remember that he played for us. What I like to say back to people who raise that point is that that's what the parachute payments are for. We happen to be in a situation, we're quite lucky, where the parachute payments and the football creditors pretty much cancel out each other. That's what's going to pay that. So the £1,000 shares that we're getting in now, and I know that the London Supporters Club have contributed to buying some already, that money is really going to the future of the football club. Now, everything that we put in goes to the football club. We have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours on our 5-year financial projections, which we have produced very, very conservatively, because we're all about sustainability, we're all about making sure the club survives for many years to come. So we've been conservative. We're not kidding ourselves, we're not saying we're going to be back in the Premiership in 5 years' time. We're being realistic. We're already pretty comfortable that as things stand, the business can go forward. We've got enough money, but the more money that we get in, that means that Mark and his team have got more options and more decisions that they can make and choices that they can make about how the football club is run. Again, what you're never going to get from us, we're never going to kid you. We're never going to try and say something that isn't real. So I'm not going to tell you that every £1,000 we get in now is going to go to Guy on the pitch, because that wouldn't be a realistic way for us to run a business. If we do massively succeed, go over what we projected, then of course Guy will probably see a knock-on effect on that. It's not all going to go to him. It means that we can do something else. Maybe we can improve the disabled facilities more than we hope to. Maybe we can fix the toilet in more stand, whatever it might be. It means Mark's got more choices. We're not going to go out and buy a £2 million striker in the summer. Now those days are gone. But what you're going to have is people running the club who care about it, who are making decisions that they believe are the right decisions for the football club to make sure that it's successful in the long term. Now, we can still be ambitious. There's no harm in being ambitious, and in fact, we believe that it's fairly realistic that in a reasonable amount of years we can get ourselves back to the Championship, because we can do that on our gates alone. You know, we are a big club in League 2 and League 1. And you only have to look at Saturday when we had 18,500 people in there. You know, that will scare the hell out of League 2 clubs if we can repeat that next season. And it also puts us way above them on our income and what we can potentially spend on the pitch. Once you get into the Championship, it's a different ball game, you know, because I've just talked about these parachute payments, the sort of money that's involved, and you're competing in much, much bigger financial circles. And that takes another step up and another clever bit of planning from our board and our management team as to how you might ever find your way back up into the Premiership. Of course, we're going to be ambitious. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you that we're going to be back in the Premiership in any certain years of time. We have to be realistic. We have to be pleased that we have a Portsmouth Football Club. And I think Saturday, I don't know how many of you were there, but Saturday showed the real potential of this club. A team that was already relegated to League 2 sold out its home tickets. And that was, I guess, the best part of 17,000 home fans in the League 2. I'm not sure what the number was.
Just over 7.
Best part of 17,000 people came to see a team that was already relegated to League 2. You had other teams playing games in the week that if they'd have won, they'd have avoided relegation, getting 3,000 in the same league as us. You know, we've got massive potential. People just need something to believe in, and that's been taken away from Portsmouth Football Club in recent years, or at least it has for me. Maybe you don't feel the same. But we've seen a series of owners and people involved in our club that didn't understand the history of Portsmouth. They didn't understand what it is to be a Pompey fan, the history of our club, and how to respect our club. I'd like to think that, you know, myself, I can bring that. My mum took me to watch Pompey when I was 1 year old, so I've been going for 40 plus years. Micah's going to be on the team. Has been going for God knows how many years as well, probably not quite as many, but pretty much the same.
Since I was 4.
Yeah, so pretty much the same. Our chairman, you know, Ian McInnes, who I hope you'll get the chance to meet at your AGM, 50 plus years, you know, he's a guy from Portsmouth. Portsmouth is his blood. He'll talk passionately about Portsmouth. And what a fantastic person to have in the boardroom. Somebody that not only is passionate about their club, but understands its history, and quite often the history of who you're playing. So he can be an incredibly welcoming character, an engaging character, not just with our own fans, but with, you know, people representing the other clubs. And personally, I think that's important, because that puts out the image that we want for Portsmouth. And, you know, officially, Sheffield was our first actual game in charge. The guy in charge of Sheffield has already written back to Mark, you know, saying what a fantastic reception, what an amazing gate you had, and we can't wait to see you guys again in a couple of years' time when you catch up with us. And that's
the guy in Brentford wrote back to us too, didn't he?
And the guy, and the guy at Brentford, you know, believe it or not, you know, the guy at Brentford. You're saying that because I had a letter from Brian Burgess at Brentford, and he did say something very complimentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess, you know, so we talk, Mark obviously, so Mark doesn't have his Pompey connections, but you have to make, you can't make every appointment based on the fact that, you know, people are from Portsmouth and they get Portsmouth. But one of the things that Mark brings to the team, which is very important for us, other than his professional experience and expertise, is that his willingness to engage with supporters and understand how important it is to attend events like this, and for the rest of his department heads or his football management team to engage with supporters. You know, so you will see Mark at your events. I can't guarantee you'll be at every one, but you know, it's important to him to get out and talk to you at these sort of events. And that was so important to us. We didn't want a chief executive that hid away in an office and pulled the blinds down and didn't want to involve themselves, develop themselves into Portsmouth life, wherever that may be, whether it's in the city, or whether it's in London supporters, Northern Blues, Isle of Wight, wherever it be. We'll make sure Mark goes there, and we won't give him any expenses for doing it either.
That's true though. That was the deal, I didn't have any expenses.
Only Mark drink.
Yeah.
Moving forward, we've talked about the concept of community club and the ethos of a community club, and that's something that will develop over time. But what's important to us is we want to be fair and we want to be honest. Where possible, we want to be transparent. The nature of business means we can't always tell everybody everything that's going on, but we want to be clear. And something that Mark will tell you as a CEO is that we'll have to make some unpopular decisions, but the important thing is that I'm willing to go in front of those people and tell them why we made that decision and explain why we made it. And I think that if we do that, the fans will understand, because the decision will have been made for the right reasons. Everyone might not like it, but it will be made for the right reasons. We need the club to get back out into the community. Those people that are aware of the charitable arm run by Claire Martin, Portsmouth in the community, they do some absolutely fantastic work already. We should not take anything away from what those guys have done in recent years, continually winning awards. But the club itself has probably not engaged properly with the community for many years now. That's something probably brought on with the Premiership and the Premiership playing stars that we had around. That's got to change. We've got to make it far more of a club that people feel again is theirs, that people feel they can approach the staff, they can approach the players, they can approach the manager. And Guy is very much brought into this as well. That's an important part of his appointment, that he understood what is expected of both him and his players, and he's absolutely keen to do it. He loves coming out and meeting people, and again, we do our best to make sure he can come to your AGM in July. We need to be fair. We want to be fair on ticketing. We want to be fair on kits. You guys may be different in London, but when you're down in Portsmouth, I don't like seeing kids in Man United tops and Chelsea kits. They're used to it in London, but we shouldn't do that. We need to make it so that just about every family can go and afford to buy a Thompson kit. The Catholic kit might have been a lovely kit, but the prices that they were charging the kids were ridiculous. We need to address that. We still have to generate revenue, we still have to make money that we can put back into the football club, but let's price things fairly, let's get people value. People from Portsmouth understand value, and we need to make sure that we give it to them. So there's lots of things we can do, and we have a lot to do. It's not all going to happen overnight. Let's be realistic. There's so much we need to do. It's going to take time. Over the summer, over the next few weeks, hopefully you'll see some fairly big announcements on some of the key points, and by the time we start next season, certain things will have changed and be in motion. But the whole story is going to take a reasonable period of time for us to achieve, and we need people to stay with us and keep supporting us. I think that's all I've got to say.
So I just want to say, there's obviously been some comment about about why we haven't come out and announced season ticket prices and everything. I mean, the thing is that what I would say is what we've noticed in coming in is that a lot of decisions have been made very quickly and easily, and they're very bad decisions, and we're paying the price for them every single day. So in a club in the lower divisions, you should have about 60% of your revenue comes from tickets, right? 40% of your revenue comes from everything else, which is about fair. Obviously, the further you go up, TV money completely distorts that picture, but it's about 60%, 40%. We've inherited a football club that doesn't get any of that 40%. It's nothing, right? Nothing is in place. So, you know, the systems that we've got are expensive and inadequate, and we've got no kit supplier. You know, and you've been to Fram Park, right? You know, you don't need me to tell you that, you know, there aren't a lot of revenue streams coming from any of the things. You don't get much revenue out of shops that they've closed, right? So it is going to take some time to put things in place the way we would want them to be in order to create proper value. But when we do things, we'll do them properly. And I think when you see things like the kit deal, I think that will blow you away with some of the things Ashley's talking about, that we've said, okay, well, what we're going to do is, we're not going to do the easiest deal for us, which is somebody walks in and says, right, this is the cheapest thing for you, right, and, you know, this is the cheapest material, and, you know, we can put it on sale for X because you can rob people because there's a lot of goodwill on the place. We've taken our values, right, or this is the way previous kits seem to have been produced. We've taken our values and pushed it right through the process and said it's got to be the right quality, okay, it's got to bring us all the extra outside benefits, okay, it's got to be a bespoke Portsmouth kit, not just someone else's kit with our badge on it, dyed an appropriate looking blue, right, which is what we were offered by a number of the larger brands that people said we should talk to. So we've gone out and got the right deal for us, and it's taken a lot longer. Right, it's taken a lot longer to do that. We could have had it ready for the day after, but we wanted to do the right thing. We want to make sure that when you see the kits and when you hear what we're doing and all the other things around the deal, that you'll say, blimey, that's the first time ever I've looked at it and thought they've got a really good deal there, and that actually delivers something to you. Same across all the board, across, you know, every area of the business. We've got a lot of foundations to put in. We've got, you know, and I mean, just as one example, every time you print a ticket at home, okay, and thought you were saving us money, for which many thanks, it was actually costing the club £1.50 for you to print your tickets at home. So you would go online, you'd pay your booking fee to our ticket provider, you'd then print your ticket at home, and they charge us another £1.50 on top of that. So on your £20 ticket, you'd be paying a nice £2.30 surcharge between us, right, for the privilege of selling you a £20 ticket. And by the time you take out VAT and card handling charges and all the other things, we're lucky if we're left with a tenner. Oh, it's about a tenner we're probably left with. So, you know, these things have to be addressed because they're long-term, systemic things that just bleed the club dry. And, you know, the club's like a colander. You just pour money into it, it all comes out the bottom. And this is about making sure that you know, when money comes into the club, that people get value out, but the money stays in the club and works for the club.
I don't know about you guys, but that'll be the first time I've heard such honest précis of the life of Pompey Football Club and how we're going to go forward that I've ever heard from anybody from Portsmouth Football Club. So let's have another thank you for that. Those who are thirsty there, those who are hungry there. If you're both, hard luck.